Well, folks, a massive welcome. And today we're very fortunate to have the leading drummer of Field Marshal Montgomery, Keith Orr. And guys, I just want to give you a heads up as to the magnitude of Keith's success over the years. So he has won with his drum corps 13 major drumming titles, 2 Champion of Champion titles. And as a band, so Field Marshal Montgomery, they've won over 40 major championships. And that includes 9 world titles. So we're very fortunate to have Keith here today. And so Keith, a massive welcome. I know you're coming in from Northern Ireland, so I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, James. Good evening or good morning, whatever.
Yeah, we're on opposite time zones here, eh?
Yeah, well, indeed.
Great to connect. So Keith, I'd love to know a little bit more. You're at the very pinnacle of the pipe band world, but I'd love to know a little bit more about where you started and how you started and where you've got to, really.
Well, I'll go back quite a few years now. I started when I was 13 in a local band, which is actually about 3/4 of a mile from my house. Even at the minute, the band no longer exists. So I was 13. Faughan Valley had just gone into grade 3, which I didn't actually know at the time, but I was just starting and learning, etc. So I learned there for a year or year and a half, so it wasn't that high a level. So it was a wee man called Arthur Morrow that was teaching me at that stage. So I was actually out in competition after 1 year because, as I say, that the level wasn't that overly high. Arthur was he was actually more like a father figure to me. He taught me a lot about the whole band scene and what you should be doing and what you should look out for. So he was very, very good and giving me a grounding to certain things. After that first initial season that I played, the pipe major and leading drummer left. That was Gavin Bailey, by the way, Sam and Gavin Bailey. So they left. Wow. I don't even know why they left, to be quite honest, but they left. And so that left me as I was voted in as leading drummer the next year, which was pretty daunting to say the least. Daunting, but and the fact that it didn't really scare me at the time because I didn't probably really know what I was doing. So I got in and started to write the stuff down and all the rest of it, and we got 2 or 3 drummers together, and we did pretty well the next year, to be fair now. So that was my early grounding.
Brilliant.
It's when you look back on it now, it's a bit scary to think on it now, but it was good for me. It was good for me.
Baptism by fire.
Yeah, that was. So after that, I only stayed there probably 1 more year. I'd actually heard something that Bobby Rea was doing on a tape recorder, which was the thing at that time. So I heard that, and that was a eureka moment for me. I thought that's where I need to be. That's what I need to be doing. So I'd had a wee bit of success in solos, maybe not a lot, but I'd won a junior competition and a couple of seconds, a couple of thirds, that sort of stuff. So my name was starting to get out there a wee bit, and I was talking to Bobby actually at a concert type thing, and he asked me to come up. So I came up, and I had a very hard winter's work to do, and that was 1981 with the 1982 season. So that it was with the RUC at that time.
Yeah.
So RUC went into grade 1, and I was there in 1982, 3 and 4. So that was quite difficult, given my background, which was there wasn't a lot of experience at that stage. So I found that quite difficult, but it was brilliant at the same time. It was very, very good. So I had 3 years of Bobby, who would have been definitely one of my main teachers, one of the people who really set me on the road as such, I suppose. Learned a lot from him, learned a lot from him even after I left, I suppose. Bobby actually left the police then in 84, which is the reason that I left. So when he left, I went. And I had sort of designs on doing the same thing again as I did in Faughan Valley. I like doing it, so I thought I want to get on the road again with that. So in between times, a wee bit more success and solos, etc., which I think that's the way everybody makes their name. You make your name in solo competition, and then you're push forward to be a leading drummer or whatever. So at that stage, I had actually won the All-Ireland Senior.
Wow, well done.
So I took that on. I was still young. I was only 19 at that stage. So I went on to take on the Graham Memorial from Ballymena.
Great band.
So that was, well, that was the start of the story, I suppose, really, for me. Like, I actually joined them in grade 2. So we went set off on the journey there. The band was actually off the road at the time. So got together with the pipe major and says, right, this is what we want to do. So long story short, we were lucky enough to win the Worlds that year and won the drumming as well and go straight into grade 1. So wow. And that wasn't a done deal. You know, it wasn't a done deal. You know, as many as a grade 2 band wins the Worlds and doesn't go up to grade 1. Yeah. And you know, you come back down or you play the next year and you're maybe 4th or 5th and you still don't go to grade 1. So it was a massive relief to actually get back into grade 1 with the Graham then. So that was a start of quite a few years, I suppose, on the big stage, which was that's exactly where I wanted to be, and it was great to get up and to get out of grade 2, you know. So
absolutely, it's a massive step up.
Yeah. It wouldn't be as big a step up as it is today. And saying that, you know, you had more time to get things organised, to get your core together, to get the level lifted, to get more players and that sort of thing. But I think whenever the band won the Worlds in grade 2, we had a bit of an influx of players because the band was going into grade 1.
Yep.
So we were sitting pretty good at that time. I think actually our first day out in grade 1, we were 4th. We were 4th in piping and 4th in drumming, and actually just missed out on a place by.
That's incredible.
I think we tied. From memory, we tied for 6th, but we're put down to 7th because of musical performance or something, which was
wow. That's unreal.
Quite annoying. It was quite annoying to miss out in that place. But
that was your first year in grade 1.
That was our first major in grade 1.
Unreal.
The very first major, and it wasn't always that good actually. But so we moved on through the years. Then that was 86. We went into grade 1. From memory, we won the All-Ireland drumming in the first year.
Wow.
Probably didn't win a lot. Well, we were doing okay at home, I suppose, and I think bands in general from Northern Ireland or outside of Scotland weren't doing that overly well in the majors at that stage. Like the Scottish bands were the best bands on the world at that stage. A few bands, I suppose, were starting to take knocks at them. I think it was McNeilstown and FM were starting to push right in. And FM obviously pushed right through a few years later. But St. Lawrence, they're all starting to make inways to get a wee 5th place or a 6th place. The Graham, actually, we got a 5th place at Cowell. I'm not even sure. It could be 88 maybe.
That's amazing.
I'm not sure. It was quite exciting times. It's very, very different times to what it is now. You know, grade 1 is totally different. I think for a leading drummer, from my point of view, at that stage you had a bit of time to get going, whereas now if you're going into grade 1, that's a bit like a football manager. If you don't do well in the first year, you're gone. You know, that's or first year or 2. It's a lot less forgiving than it is now. But we did pretty well overall in the scheme of things. 92 we won the MSR drumming at the Worlds, which is a big.
That's epic.
Yeah. That was a massive day, and I don't think anybody had ever really won a major drumming trophy. Cullybackey were in the frame for that with Bobby at the time, and they were very, very, very close on a few occasions, I know. But we've actually in 91 we were runners up in the MSR, which I suppose a lot of people don't know about, and we were runners up in 93 as well. So we're in the top 2.
That's totally news to me, and that's amazing to hear that. Like, incredible.
Well, as I say, some people don't. A lot of people maybe don't remember that. You know, there was a judge at the time. It was 91, and I caught his eye one day, and he was judging the drumming that day, and I don't even remember his name. He was a big tall man. He's actually dead and gone now, but he caught my eye, and he sort of waved me over, and Jeffrey Wilson was with me at the time, and I just looked at Jeff and I thought, have we done this here? So he called me over and he said how good he thought we were on the day and all, and I was actually shaking. And then he said to me, he said, it's not a hats throwing up job, but he says, you're very, very close. And my heart just sank because I actually thought he was going to tell me that we would won it, but that was 91. So
wow, incredible.
So I think it sticks out in my head a bit, I suppose.
Absolutely. I was there the day when you did throw the hats up and the drum corps won. I think it was 2013.
Yeah.
That was a special day, as I got to share that with you in the corps, the celebrations. That was phenomenal.
Yes, that's right. I think those things there, that was what, that's 11 years past that. That's 11 years past that. So that's quite a bit, and you get so close at times, and I'm sure that this happens to a lot of people. You get so close, but you don't actually get there.
100%.
Well, that could be the end. You might never get there, or just so glad to actually do it. But that's a very, very difficult thing to win, obviously.
Absolutely. That consistency, right?
Just maybe even to win it once. I would love to win it again, of course we would, but we've been runners up 2 or 3 times, and you win different sections here and there, and as other corps do. But it's just nice to actually think that you have won it. By the time you're retired, that you've actually done what you've set out to do or tried to do all your days. So it's very, very, it's very satisfying to know that.
100%. Now, well, you've done it and you've done it again. It's not like you've had a one-off wins. You've had consistent, amazing major championship wins. It says a lot. So when you got there to the early 90s, what was your next transition then, the next band after that?
Early 90s, the Graham folded, and I went to McNeilstown.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there, and it was the old Graham corps at that time, so it was, the whole thing was sitting functioning as it was. So we had I suppose, go through a couple of new medleys, a couple of new MSRs and all, but the talent was there, and the corps was set up and going well. So we actually won our first clean major, and where was that? Falkirk.
Yeah.
So that was our first actual outright major win.
That'd have been a phenomenal moment.
It was a big day for everybody, I think. And actually, something that somebody pointed out to me a couple of years ago, we won the European in '93, and we won the European again in 2018. So it was a 25-year period.
That's amazing.
It's a bit mental, so it is. So it was actually somebody else that pointed that out to me. I didn't realise it myself.
Phenomenal.
But, so we had a fair few good years in McNeilstown as well. Yep. Things started to. The band was fourth that day. That's right, at Falkirk. And FM won the competition that day. I remember, because we walked out and FM had us guard of honour on the way out, which was pretty cool. There wasn't probably a lot of winning going on then for a few years. McNeilstown came to its natural end, I suppose, the Grade 1 band in 1999, I think, yeah. And so I was actually out for a couple of years then. Didn't do anything. I was just sort of hoping for something good to come up. And then it did. That was end of 2002. So I got the call from FM, which was a big call.
That's a dream come true for any drummer.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Now it's been a fantastic experience. It really has. From start to finish. That's been brilliant. For somebody to say that you've won over 40 majors is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
That really is. It's
in a game where you generally lose more than you win, because the pipe band game, we generally do lose more than we win. For you to be doing that, you would say there's an incredible amount of consistency, a huge amount of positive leadership, and also a massive talent pool there. So it's incredible mixture of things coming together.
Well, you obviously need all three. Yeah, you need all three, and you need obviously your talent there, and you need to be knowing where you're going. And I think in grade one now, especially the talent or the standard's so high. It really is. It's very, very high at the minute. Even I would say more so even the last 3 or 4 years. There, it's just gone up and up and up. The whole pack is squeezing up.
Absolutely. The top 10 is phenomenal quality.
Yeah. Where I suppose 15, 20 years ago, you could have picked the top 6, and then you could have picked 10 that could have been anywhere. But it's not that way now. It's very, 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 very high standard.
No, I agree. And the one thing I wanted to touch on a bit that you brought up was Bobby Rea. So I was very fortunate to get some tuition with Bobby as well when I was a youngster. And I started thinking around like who he has impacted. And, I started looking at yourself and, Gareth McLeese, Stephen McWhirter. Is there a few other drummers that you could name off that he's had a bit of a hand in? Did Andrew Scullion get some guidance with him?
Yes, early he would have had, that would have been Andy would have had a different style to that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there definitely would have been tuition there. I heard Eric Ward, Gary Corkin. There's quite a few. If you had asked me this question, I could have written them down. But there's quite a few.
Gavin Bailey, did Gavin spend a bit of time with Bobby?
Well, he played in the REC the time that I was there.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time that we had some very, very good players. Bobby definitely attracted, basically all the best players from the country at that stage.
And you think about that spread, that information, that talent that he imparted has spread across the globe, and look at the consistency of what you guys achieve. So yeah, I think Bobby, what an incredible player and teacher. And for those who don't know Bobby, who are watching this, I urge you to go to YouTube and type in Bobby Rea and check out some of his playing. He's just an absolute amazing, phenomenal player.
Aye, yeah, playing wise, probably a motivator as much as even as playing. Like, he definitely motivated you a lot. He knew, I wouldn't say he knew the right things to say, but he obviously had the experience to know where to go, to the areas to tell you about, to the areas to tell you that you were good at, to tell you the areas that you thought you were bad at, etc. But I've seen Bobby moving into different scenarios there, even grade 2 bands, grade 3 bands, and as soon as he walked in the door, the whole thing completely changed. The style of playing is, I think the first thing he always would have done would be to lift the tempos of something. The tempos are always up with Bobby. It was always extremely musical. He just had a sound. He really had a sound of his own, and it was something that actually made you want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a listening experience, I was a kid really when I got to hear Bobby playing, and it was just so inspiring. A lot of energy, a lot of passion.
Well, as I was saying, like early days there, earlier on in the interview, I actually got that recording. I was playing with Colin at the time, and they were doing like a parade in Belfast somewhere. I don't know what it was, like an RSPBA type thing, and it was a 4/4 march or something. And I mean, I hadn't heard a lot of stuff at that time. Like, there wasn't a lot of recordings, or you couldn't listen to much. And I heard it was just that's what I said to you at the time. That's where I need to be. That's where it's at.
Isn't that amazing? A 4/4 march, and you were like, "That's it."
Yeah.
Like, it just says a lot.
It was so musical. So musical.
That says a lot. Well, I have to say, the one thing that kind of tied Bobby Rea together with you, for me at one point, I'd put the sticks down from drumming myself once my little boy came along, so I could focus on fatherhood. And there was one point I was sitting in my office, and you guys had been at the first major, and it was maybe 2017, maybe 2018, and I heard you guys playing the Hard Drive, and I thought, if there's any time where I'd get out of retirement to play, it would be play that tune with you guys. That was phenomenal, because to me, that was Bobby at its finest. That was like, you were really exemplifying and personifying some of what he had passed on to you and taking it to a whole new level. I just thought it was like incredible music, and you could see where you'd been inspired to write that.
It's interesting you actually say that. I didn't think on it that way, but I think the tune itself, well, that's obviously coming out in me, and I don't see it. But the tune itself is very inspiring. That's a great tune. The music's pumping out of it.
It's just pure music.
It was quite an interesting tune to sit down and write. And I think I heard actually the first day that the Pipers had it on the floor, I went in to listen to it. It just sounded awesome.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Just for the first time, it was brilliant.
And I bet from a playing point of view, it just would have been outstanding. And from a listening point of view, it's just one of those tunes where if you don't like that tune, hey, you don't have a bone of music in you, because it's just the music's hanging out of it.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, very enjoyable to play. Yeah,
phenomenal. I'm looking forward to more great medley finishes from you guys in the future years.
Aye, we have a couple of new ones ready there cooking. We haven't anywhere to play them at the minute.
Oh, that will come in good time.
yeah.
Now, good stuff. We've got a few other wee questions for you. So, what would your advice be to a drummer of any age? Doesn't matter if they're a youngster or they're not. If they want to be world class and have great rhythm, great execution, a good understanding of the music, what would you advise them to do? Is there something that they should be doing regularly?
That's probably a tough one. I would say the crux of the whole thing is to actually enjoy the music of the tune itself. To get right into, try and understand how the tune should be played, or try and enjoy that. Try and get right into the middle of the tune. Anybody can play a score, but you'll have two or three bands playing the same tune, but you'll have one band that'll, like a drum corps, that'll stand out to you because they're really getting into the bones of the tune and expressing the melody, making it more interesting, making it more exciting. That's where it is for me. Other people may be different, but probably just to, you have to work hard at this thing. Mm-hmm. There's no substitute for that. You have to work really hard at it, but try and enjoy the music and try and really connect with the music. That's where the enjoyment is. That's where it is for me.
And I think that says a lot. I think a lot of us who have played for many years in the pipe band world, initially what got us into it was the music and listening to it and being inspired by that. And I think if we can keep that at the forefront, you're right, it keeps us doing it for the right reasons. And I guess the one thing you brought up that I would probably pass on to others as well, having good tuition, having good guidance is so important. So you having Bobby and a few others that led you along the way, if you possibly had other people, it may have been a longer journey, or you may not have got to where you've got to. So it's probably another thing for people to consider, is if you can get someone that can guide you in the right direction, it's going to be helpful.
I think that is essential. I probably didn't actually say that, but no, that is essential. You'll have young people there that you'll see straight away that there's potential and that there's talent in them, and like the old adage is the cream rises to the top, which is 100% correct, but they still need guidance to help that.
100%.
And a vision of something, to see where you're actually trying to go. Definitely guidance can help you on that, or a good tutor. Yeah.
100%. No, I agree with you. And for me, Field Marshal, I think back over the years, I grew up 20 minutes from where you guys practiced, and I was always heavily inspired by the music that you played. The one thing that stood out for me was just incredible ensemble and the ability for you guys to create amazing music. So do you think there's something that you guys do that's a magic recipe, or is it like, hey, there's actually some key things that we do, that Richard and I do together to create good ensemble?
I think Richard's always had good ensemble before I came about. Anyway, it would be the first thing I would say. But there, myself and Richard played in a solo competition, or he was playing for me in a solo competition. I think it was actually that All Ireland. So I couldn't get any pipers out of my own band to do that. So I knew Richard, and I rang him up and I said, look, would you do the All Ireland for me? And he says, right, okay. And I said, what tunes are you playing? Blah, blah, blah. Got the tunes. So we played that day for the first time, and it was just an initial, it was a real fit. So, and I remember him coming off and saying, like, he says, you do exactly the same thing. We phrase exactly the same way. And I think that's where a lot of that works. We do phrase the same way. We don't have to sit down really and say, what are you doing there? What am I doing here? You know, it just does work most of the time. I
There's
think
a
we're
synergy
both
there
quite.
with musicianship.
I think, and you know, certain pipers will phrase tunes exactly the same way. Certain drummers will do that. Drummers may be slightly different. There's a lot more different ways of attacking a thing there. But definitely the way that we phrase the tune is very, very close without having to speak about it. So I think that's a key.
Definitely. And what about space? The one thing I really admire you guys is that it's particularly in your medley compositions, you create space and, you know, percussive silence at just the best point. So is that really intentional to take the listener on a journey?
I think in any of those, and any medleys, myself and Richard would sit down and look at those things. Those are moments of ensemble that you remember. You know, you'll go away and there'll be a load of brilliant playing, you know, whatever band you're listening to, and very technical rudiments and all the rest of it. But you don't, 9 times out of 10, you don't remember those. The bits you remember is when the drums stop, and then you have a period of silence. And when it comes back in again, it creates a bigger impact than it did before it went out. You know, and those are classic moments of ensemble. And like, I suppose most bands do that, but some bands do it slightly better than others. And again, you see more bands doing that now, that there are better medley constructions. There's more thought goes into it. I think where you take the percussion out is extremely important, and where you bring it back in is extremely important. And how you do that is akin to how well that sounds.
100%.
You know,
and with the midsection,
there's a lot of thought.
Sorry to interrupt you. With the midsection, you guys are renowned for having phenomenal midsections. You know, Chris Pollock, a great friend of mine for many years, was a phenomenal bass player for you for many years. Now you've got an incredible bass player in there as well. So what do you do in terms of autonomy with your midsection? Do they have some degree of autonomy in terms of, hey, we want to add a run in here, or we want to split the tones this way?
Well, I mean, the tones will be split as to the tune itself, I suppose. You know, that well, the tune itself will lead you to that. I'm quite open to, you know, Andrew, who is there now, and Rob, who is there now. I'll say, you know, anybody comes up and says, hey, you know, I'm thinking about doing A, B, or C. You know, we'll give, you know, what do you think about that? You have to be open to all those things and say, right, okay, you know, I think that's a really good idea, or I don't think it's a good idea, or whatever. But it takes all those mixes of things to make the whole thing work. You know, that we have a lot of talented people in the band, so they all have good ideas to put forward. Some ideas work brilliantly, some don't work so brilliantly, and you have to go back and have another look. You know, there's some things that you think in your head that, you know, this is going to be absolutely fantastic, and then you put it up and running, and it doesn't work as well as you thought. And the other way, some things you don't think are going to be, you know, you're just thinking on something, and then it turns out to be really, really good. So it's trial and error a lot of the times, with a lot of thought behind it too, obviously.
I love that.
No,
people, that says a lot, Keith. I mean, I think some people will write music and say it's set in stone, it's done, we're running with it. But I think for people watching this, it would, at whatever level, grade 4 right up to grade 1, hey, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to try things. And more than anything, it's okay to include all of your players' ideas and suggestions. Doesn't mean that you need to accept them or to make the changes, but you can at least listen, give them a voice, and something really cool might come of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think especially whenever you're at the, you know, at the top of grade 1 level, you know, and for all grade 1 bands, like, they have there's a lot of talent right through the ranks there. You know, it's like there's a lot of pipers now writing tunes. You know, the pipe major doesn't have to write the tune. You know, you can use somebody else's tunes. It doesn't show weakness just because you don't write your own tunes or the likes of that there. But no, there's a lot of talent there, and you'd be stupid not to use it. You know, if somebody comes up with a good suggestion, you don't use it just because I didn't come up with it. You know, definitely. If somebody says that's, you know, we'll try this. If I think it's good, we'll go with it. I have no problem with that.
That says a lot. You remove the ego from it and put the band first.
No, you have to go with the best. But it's much too tight at this level. To be leaving something because of your ego. No, you have to go with the best thing on the day. Has to win the vote.
I love it. And if I look at your lineup, if I look at your snare line, I would be comfortable saying that you've got the who's who of the drumming world in your lineup. Like, Gareth McLeese and Gavin Node would come to mind, right at the top of mind for me. You've got the best, most phenomenal players. So it must be fun for you to say, I can write almost anything that comes to mind, and I've got the hands that can just deliver it. They'll be able to play what I write. You don't have to doctor it to somebody's weakness or strength, because you've got a super strong core.
We have some excellent players. With some excellent new players actually in there as well. Some younger players who are very, very good. They don't have a big name behind them, but I think they probably will at some stage. It is nice to be able to write stuff that you're not scared that people won't be able to handle it. But then you have to make sure that it's going to suit the band, for band tempos. If the tempos increase, it's going to create a problem then. It's going to sound crammed, etc. But personnel-wise, no, we don't really have that problem. And again, I think most scores in Grade 1 have very, very good players nowadays. They all have a very high standard of player.
100%, and that goes for, whether I'm in North America, Australia, New Zealand, UK, the Grade 1 bands around the world, the standard is very, very high all over. So it's really cool to see that lifting globally. Yeah,
that's a bit scary at the minute, to be quite honest. It's very, very high. I don't actually I can't see how much higher that can go. But we've all said that before.
This is true. Yeah. And in terms of instruments, like what do you guys use? So what brand of drum are you guys on?
We use the Premier HDS 800 and KP2s, and we use the Cortec and Dante head on that. That for me is the best of all the worlds. I suppose I've always been a Premier man, but in saying that, if something came up tomorrow that was a better thing, I don't think anybody's wedded to anything. I think you have to use the best instrument that is there at the time. But for me, that has been the Premier over this last quite a few years. Not getting into politics on drums or whatever. Again, they're all pretty good nowadays. It just gives me a real clarity and a real solid sound, which I like. And they're pretty easy to work with now, to be honest, compared to what they used to be.
I agree with you. I really admire the sound you guys get. There's a very much a strong depth to what you guys can project, and also the pitches there and the clarity. And when I finished off with Canterbury, that's what I was on the Premier HDS 800 KP2 stick. So a similar setup. So I really do think, quality products, and they create great sound. So, and what about the midsections? You're on the professional series Premier drums?
Yes. So we're doing a wee bit of experimentation with a couple of things there now as well, to see if we can change sound a wee nip as well. Paramax heads at the minute, which have been very good. They have been very good. I think tenor sections are under so much scrutiny now and over this last few years. I suppose adjudicators have to separate bands some way, and I think the sound of tenors is very open to criticism, and that's speaking to other leading drummers. They're all getting the same, but where I'm coming from here is something that I'm looking for my own self. It's not really a criticism, but we're just doing a wee bit of experimentation on that.
That's exciting. I look forward to hearing it in future seasons. What have you guys done? This is a big one. So in terms of downtime, a competing band, whether it's Grade 4 or Grade 1, a competing band needs downtime at the end of a season. So obviously this season we've had slightly more downtime. What do you guys do just to keep everyone connected? Not necessarily playing, but what do you do to just keep everyone connected? Just the simple things that a pipe major or a leading drummer could do just to stay connected with their team during downtime.
This year or any year?
This year's a good one because obviously 2020 with COVID, and it's probably a good one to chat about actually.
Yeah. Well, we had, with the way the whole thing has been going this year, nobody really knew what was going to happen from week to week or month to month. So we did keep in contact, I suppose, in the earlier times. We talked about getting a practice together and then waiting to see what the government guidelines were for that. So we obviously can't practice inside, but the more things have gone on during the year, there hasn't really been anything that there's going to be any point to do.
Yeah.
You know, you can maybe try. We did try for a practice outside, and then things changed, and the pandemic situation, so that affected what we did after that. So we haven't probably done much, but we keep in touch in the WhatsApp group.
Great.
So everybody's still talking, doing this, you know, and asking, you know, what are we doing and the likes of that. But you know, there basically is nothing to do.
And on a standard year, what would you guys do? You'd finish up at the Worlds, and then what would a standard break look like?
Standard break would look like everybody has completely disappeared for 2 months, because that's I think that's the way that everybody likes it. I think, well, myself and Richard would be in contact with players, I suppose, at that stage. After maybe a couple of weeks or so, you'd be starting to work on the players that were coming in, or the likes of that, you know, just phone calls and that sort of thing. But there will be nothing like meaningful happen until start of October, I would say. Mm-hmm. Richard be getting tunes together, and I'd be starting to listen to those then in the background. So my work would start early, and then would meet in October and get moving again. But I would have to have something to get moving. There's not much point in meeting and not having anything to do. So I'd always make a point of having like two parts of a tune or a full tune done for the first practice back, have it sent out in WhatsApp so we can actually work on something instead of working on last year's material. So that's a point I've always been very, very strong on, to get something started straight away and to keep moving, like a couple of parts every week, whatever it is.
That's great advice for people, because I know, Keith, some bands struggle with, they'll send out 2 MSRs and a medley all at once to the whole group and say, hey, we'll see you in a month, have it all memorized. But I love what you're saying, like, hey, no, there'll be some existing music we played from last year, that's cool, but we're going to drip feed and like bite-sized chunk it, which is fantastic because people can actually take it on board and it's not overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, I think apart from anything else, if I was to be handed 2 MSRs, it would take me probably a couple of months to actually write that.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no point in having everybody doing nothing for 2 months. You might as well have them learning 2 parts, and then by the end of that month they've learned an MSR while I'm doing. I would always have something sort of in the background working away at that stuff. That's the part of the year that I can't remember a thing, because I'm working on the other stuff as I'm trying to play the stuff that I've written. So no, that's the way we would try and operate things, and have as much done by Christmas as possible.
Brilliant. I think that's good advice for a lot of people, that a break is actually a healthy thing, even for the best band in the world. And I would say that, you know, hand on heart, in my opinion, you know, Field Marshal Montgomery would be like the Manchester United, the All Blacks of rugby, the whatever you want to call it, one of the most consistent teams of all time in our idiom. So I just think it's amazing to hear you guys are saying, yeah, we need a break too. And I think it's good, because some bands don't take the downtime they need. And you know, for you, I would say, you know, being one of the most sought after leaders in the pipe band world of all time, your results speak for themselves. My last question for you is, what does it take to succeed consistently over the long term? You know, the definition of high performance is, you know, to be consistently performing at a high level whilst maintaining well-being within your own life and a balance of life. What is your like ingredient for consistently just playing and competing at a high performing world-class level?
I think starting off initially, you see that couple of month break as a very, very important part of that. I think the world's such an intense thing, you know, in the weeks and months leading up to that. As all grade 1 bands know, it's so intense going up that you need that downtime. And speaking to other guys, that they say the same thing. They just put everything away. So initially that real downtime. After that, it's really hard work, you know, hard work and dedication, attention to detail is so important, and that takes so much time. You know, you don't do attention to detail on all the smaller, the really fine parts, and you know, it just takes so much time. I think when you're trying to stay at the level that you're at, I think nowadays with the very high quality recordings that we have, you know, drum corps being one of those, I've always been one for trying to see exactly where I sit or where we sit in that pile. I don't care where we're first or where we're sixth on a result. I listen to the recordings, listen to all the recordings, and I always make up my own mind to where I think we were. And I think you have to trust your own judgment. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll agree with the result, sometimes you won't. You know, sometimes you're first, and sometimes you'll say, we were lucky, you know, we were lucky to do that. It's not a matter of sour grace because you were sixth or the likes of that. I think you have to be realistic in where you see yourself sitting. And I have come back to the practice some nights and said, look, we won that on Saturday, but there's 2 or 3 things, 3 or 4 things we weren't good on Saturday. You know, we have to get that right because we're going to be caught out on it the next week. So you have to be realistic in where you see yourself in that top 6 or top 10 or whatever it is. You know, you have to know where you are in that. If there are bands that are creeping up around you, getting better than you, whatever, you know, you need to be on top of that and to fight back as quickly as possible. You can't let that go. You have to keep on that at all times. You have to know where you sit in the whole thing.
100%. I think that's beautiful. And how many years have you been drumming for now?
Oh, too many. I was 13 and 42.
That's incredible. 42. And all I can see and hear is that there's still passion, there's still fire, and it's still there. And to me, that's inspiring for people who, whether they're starting their journey or whether they're towards the end of their journey, to see you at the top level, still passionate about what you do. That speaks volumes as to why you get the results that you do.
I think you have to have that. I think the day that leaves, you have to leave yourself. You know, you have to have that drive and determination. I certainly do that. Certainly, I've always had that. I'm a very determined person in work life or whatever. But no, you have to have that for the amount of hours and the stuff that you put yourself through. You know, it's at times you wonder why you do it, but I think we're all the same. We all think that at times.
100%. Well, Keith, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking the time tonight to come and speak. And for those who are watching this, please hit subscribe below on the YouTube channel. There's lots of other interviews coming up, but we've had one of the very best players of all time sitting in front of us tonight. So I just want to put my hand on my heart and say a massive thank you, and continue to do what you're doing at the most highest of levels.
Thank you very much, James. Nice to talk to you.
Cheers, mate.